Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we'll be taking a look through 52 weeks, 52 Sherlock Holmes novels, edited by Paul Bishop. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so, the world of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes is incredibly vast and has seen countless spin-offs and pastiches based on the famous characters of Holmes and Watson over the years. Now, this book, edited by Sherlockian expert Paul Bishop, showcases 52 of these for 52 weeks of the year, which is a really great idea. Now, Paul has gathered together a superb collection of Sherlockian experts to examine and recommend various Holmes pastiches through the ages. And as you can see, it's not an insubstantial book here. It's about 350 pages, and it's ideal to be sort of dipping in and out. And I thought we'd have a really close look first of all at the contents page. It's published by Genesis Books, and it's literally just been published in 2025 here. And a few acknowledgements, and then the introduction, and then we've got it's split into 5 parts, this book. You've got Sherlock Holmes on Baker Street, W.S. Baring Gould, and then the person who's contributed to that is then credited underneath, L.A. Watson. Return of Moriarty by John Gardner, which we'll look at in a minute. The 7% Solution, Nicholas Mayer. So it covers all aspects of Holmes pastiches, not just in books, but across film and TV as well. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Holmes there, Sherlock Holmes in New York. Mr. Holmes, A Slight Trick of the Mind. Daughter of Sherlock Holmes, Dust and Shadow, Adventures of the Peerless Peer, that was the Philip Jose Farmer Holmes story. Fight Card Sherlock Holmes, Work Capital, The Infernal Device, and then Intermission, the first, which is like the first little break in the pastiches, and that's A Study in Collecting, which I've found really good. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Beekeeper's Apprentice. I've always been fascinated with what Holmes did after he retired from being a detective, and I know, I do enjoy the fact that a lot of people think he just becomes a beekeeper, which is superb, keeping bees. Case of the Felon's Fiddle, Holmes-Dracula File, that's another good one, which we'll have a look at in a minute, and of course that almost leads into The Giant Rat of Sumatra, that story by Rick Bayer. Revenge of the Hound, A Study in Charlotte, Fatal Inquiry, Sherlock Holmes and the Sacred Sword, Taste for Honey, The Cluthu Casebooks, Sherlock Holmes and the Shadwell Shadows, West End Horror, then the second intermission, then on to more pastiches, The Death of Cardinal Tosca, Elementary, The Ghost Line. Now you can see there's loads in here. Sherlock Holmes, The Shrieking Pits, 10 Years Beyond Baker Street, Television Sherlock Holmes, and we'll have quite a close look at that because I brought a few bits from my own collection to help illustrate that particular one. Harry Dixon, The American Sherlock Holmes, The Heir of Dracula, Inside the Mind of Sherlock Holmes. And you see there's loads here. As it's in 5 parts. Study in Scarlet Women, They Might Be Giants, Holmes Coming, then the third intermission about publishing Sherlock Holmes. Then we've got Sherlock Holmes, Zombies Over London, Hound of the D'Urbervilles, Return of the Pharaoh, Elementary, She Said, this one by Paul himself. Elementary, Dear Data, of course, the fantastic Star Trek The Next Generation character that Brent Spiner played, who was such a plum and fantastic. I love those Sherlock Holmes Next Gen stories. Sherlock Holmes, Eye of Heka, Holmes on the Range, Warlock Holmes, A Study in Brimstone, House of Silk, Mycroft Holmes, a favourite character of mine, and then Illustrating Sherlock Holmes. Then the last part here to round out is Young Miss Holmes, Sherlock Holmes and the War of the Worlds, Enola Holmes and the Mark of the Mongoose, Moriarty by Anthony Harrow. It's a very, very good book, that one. Sherlock Holmes and the Golden Bird, Enter the Lion, a posthumous memoir of Mycroft Holmes, A Study in Crimson. There we are. The Italian Secretary, Against the Brotherhood, and Holmes, Marple and Poe. And then the after forwards. So fantastic, really. Really, really great stuff here. And as you can see, absolutely an incredible choice. Now, Paul mentions in his introduction there are many pastiches based on the Holmes supporting characters: Lestrade, Moriarty, Irene Adler, Mrs. Hudson, Mycroft Holmes, and many others. There are ones that interest me the most, of course, and well, perhaps not Mrs. Hudson, but Mycroft and Inspector Lestrade. I do like reading extra stories about them, pastiches about them. Now, this may not be the sort of book that you just want to go through and read cover to cover. You may want to do like I did and sort of dive, oh, there he is, Mr. Data, dive sort of in and out of the book and turn to the bits that you'd like to read. Certainly, I gravitated towards sort of the Holmes that I was already familiar with, but at the same time, this is a sort of book you might want to keep a little bit of paper at the back and make a little note of some of the other books that you're going to definitely want to either read or watch after going through this particular one. So, first of all, then, one of the and I did just that. So I wanted to have a look at the television Sherlock Holmes. Now, this is by Peter Haining, this book, and I remember getting this when it was published because I was a massive fan of the Granada Sherlock Holmes series with Jeremy Brett. Yeah, published in 1986, and I did actually dig my copy out. Mine actually has a different cover to the one that's featured. Maybe that's the American cover, maybe this is the British one. Peter Haining was famous for writing all sorts of like tie-in books. I first came across him in the early 80s when he did a couple of big Doctor Who books, but I liked him. He made a career basically out of doing really great editing and anthologies, lots of great horror stories as well. But here in this particular piece, author Paula Hammond shares her memories of this great book on the superb Granada series. Now, I am planning a video on the Granada series with Jeremy Brett, which I've been a fan of ever since the episodes first aired in the 1980s. I even wrote off, if you can believe it, to the cast at the time and received a couple of signed signatures back. I'm sure I've got Edward Hardwicke somewhere, but I couldn't put my hand on it. But I got Jeremy Brett there, and he always would sign it on the back in a phantom pen. And there's the original Dr. Watson until he only did season 1, of course, and then Edward Hardwicke took over. I'm sure I've got Edward Hardwicke, but he wasn't with these, so I might need to dig a little bit further for those. But those are some of my most treasured Holmes possessions. And as I said, Paula really raves about this, and you can see why. If we have a flick through, it is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. This one, got the full episode guide up to that point. Loads of great stills. That was superb. The fall down the Reichenbach Falls. There's the original Sidney Paget illustration there. Very, very nice. Yes, if I'd have had the option to contribute to Paul's book, I probably would have chosen this book as well because it's so good. And if you're a fan of the Granada series, I definitely recommend tracking this one down. There is also a superb Jeremy Brett podcast, which I shall try and link to in the description down below as well. It's called the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes podcast, and it comes also highly recommended. One of the most relaxing podcasts I've ever heard, and another little bit of Granada memorabilia. You got this if you visited the set, which I did in Manchester back in 1987. There was a gift shop, and as you can see, a really, really lavish production. So look out for a video dedicated to the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes on the channel very soon. Anyway, that's a slight digression, but I did want to point out such a great review there by Paula. Really, really good, that one. So zooming back to the start then, so on page number 10, as I said, it's a good sort of book to jump around to. This one is The Return of Moriarty, who is another favourite. Now, this one was written by John Gardner. Now, he was a great writer, sadly passed away now, but it's no surprise that he was the official James Bond author from 81 to 1996. Now, in this article, Bob Byrne looks at his excellent entry in the Holmes Pastiches, where Moriarty rules over the criminal underground of London. He likens it to Sherlock Holmes meets The Sopranos. I haven't read this one in years, but I intend to revisit this one quite soon. So that was another great one. Now, if we zoom ahead to page 59, in fact, here it is. Yeah, Studying Collecting. Now, I found this essay really interesting. Now, it was written by Richard Ray Green Jr. and details a lifetime of collecting Sherlockania between himself and his son. Now, I live very close to Dartmoor, where we used to have a Conan Doyle museum. And my thoughts immediately went back to this incredible place, which sadly closed in the mid-1990s when the curator fell ill. However, Richard and his son have seem to have followed a similar path, really, by amassing an incredible collection of Sherlockania. Numerous books, of course, but so much more. Vintage magazines, DVDs, TV scripts, everything. There's even a special sub-collection of items related just to the Hound of the Baskervilles. So I found that, as a collector myself, really, really interesting. So I think you will enjoy that part. Number 83 here was the Holmes-Dracula file. This is another one that I had read in the past. It's by Fred Saberhagen. Now, this is one I have read and can certainly recommend it as an excellent read. Now, Mike Barron penned this particular entry into the book, and I thought his summary was excellent, so I'll read it to you in full. So it's only a page, so it says, "Crime can make for strange bedfellows, and none stranger than Sherlock Holmes and Count Dracula, told in alternating chapter, each written from the point of view of Watson or Dracula. The Holmes-Dracula file plays liberally with established mythos of both characters, as well as speculating on the well-trodden path of what Watson once declared the story for which the world is not yet prepared, the giant rat of Sumatra. As London prepares for Queen Victoria's Jubilee, Holmes confronts a pair of seemingly impossible conundrums: a ring of criminal masterminds threatening to loose thousands of plague-infested rats into the streets of London, and a bizarre killer who leaves a trail of bloodless corpses with no clues as to the perpetrator. Dracula seemingly holds the key to both mysteries. Having returned to London on a personal matter after a 6-year absence, the sanguinary Count is quickly entangled in a web of evil even his undead powers may not be enough to breach. However, his best chance of success is to join forces with the world's greatest detective to avert a public disaster and avenge a personal enemy. The first chapter begins with Dracula having been kidnapped, deprived of blood and shackled to an oak board. We're not sure who he is, but there's a reason behind the non-identification. Holmes gets involved when a young woman asks him to track down her missing fiancé, a doctor who went to Sumatra to research the plague. Aha! The giant rat of Sumatra. As is common knowledge, Conan Doyle alluded to the rat in The Adventure of the Sussex Vampire. Aha! Another vampire. Does the rat actually appear? I don't want to give too much, except to say that it's all part of a plot by ruthless villains to extort London with plague. Does the story succeed? You bet. Both Saberhagen's Dracula and Holmes are very convincing. As mentioned, the chapters alternate, with Dracula narrating his chapters in the first person, while Dr. Watson narrates Holmes, and Saberhagen gets both voices right. Some readers may reject the premise as outrageous, but it is any more outrageous than Guy Ritchie's interpretation of Holmes as a Bronson-like master brawler. Well, there you go. If that doesn't tempt you to want to read that particular one, I don't know what will. And here is a little bit more perfectly placed on The Giant Rat of Sumatra by Rick Boyer. Now, this was a contribution to Paul's book by fellow YouTuber and Sherlockian expert and Sherlock Holmes fan, Gary Levisi. And you may remember the giant rat's very brief mention, as we said, in The Adventure of the Sussex Vampire. Here, Gary really praises this novel as the first to tackle the subject, but also the best. Now, Gary himself is a lifelong Holmes collector and has amassed a great collection. Some parts of this were brought together into the Sherlock Holmes Notebook, published by Starkhouse Press last year, and you can see my review of this one right here. Now, on to page 95 here, and we've got John Peel's write-up of The Revenge of the Hound by Michael Hardwick. So I also really enjoyed this one. It sounds like a great yarn and possibly features a return of the famous hound from Dartmoor, now roaming London. Now, this makes use of lots of the supporting characters in the Holmes canon, namely Lestrade, Mycroft Holmes, and even Mrs. Hudson. There are also 3 illustrations by legendary comic book artist Jim Steranko included as well. So this is now another book I definitely need to track down. And this is a perfect example of a book I didn't know anything about this one, even though it was published back in 1987, but it's now very much on my radar. So, as you can see, the book is absolutely stacked with stuff. Now, Paul rounds out by saying that Sherlock Holmes and related pastiches are basically everywhere right now. It really is a great time to be a Sherlock Holmes fan, and I couldn't agree more. We are being treated to Holmes in virtually every medium imaginable. And long may this continue. Absolutely superb and a really, really great book to dip in and out of if you've at all got a passing interest in the Sherlock Holmes characters. Now, the book is available in physical print form, and it's a very, very handsome volume. I really enjoyed reading it, the experience of reading it from Amazon, and you can also get it on the Kindle if you want it as an ebook. And links to those are in the description down below. Thanks once again for the review copy sent to me by Paul. I've enjoyed every minute of it, Paul. Fantastic. If you've enjoyed today's video and my little flick through of the book, do please give the video a thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you've not already for regular vintage content, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.